Recently, we have seen some interesting rebranding developments, and today we have Todd, Senior Vice President of Arrive, to tell us a little bit more about their rebranding. So Todd, we have already seen earlier in the week a blog by your creative director, Rich McClellan, on how the branding name came to life. Could you tell us in your own words more detail on how the decision was made to rebrand?
Sure. We came under some new leadership a couple of years ago, and some of those folks came from, different sectors outside of parking and transportation. And it's always interesting when you get a diversity of experience and thought from other sectors that come into parking and kind of apply learnings that they've obtained from other markets and other verticals and other type of business pursuits. And so, was really impressed with some of our new leadership, how quickly they understood parking and some of the trends that were going on. And so, ParkWiz and Best Parking are two kind of branded items, prior to Arrive, had been around for 12 years, primarily focused on parking reservations and prepays. And we wanted to kind of expand, and we wanted to expand our reach and our presence in our market for a couple of reasons. One, some of the platform partnerships that we had organized. So we've recently received an investment in a partnership with Amazon, for example. Avis Rental Car, 8 out of 10 automakers are working with us, and so all of these different platform partners have a vision of how parking will fit into their particular consumer journey. So, for an example, if you're an Avis customer, you're in the business of, or you're an Avis business, you're in the business of renting cars. If you're an Avis customer, you're in the business of consuming those rentals. But it's a natural parallel business that parking's kind of involved in there. If you've got a rental car, there's a chance you're going to need to park it. So we're trying to inject our unique brand of parking satisficing, if you will, into these different consumer journeys. And so what does that mean? So for an Avis customer or an Amazon customer, somebody like that, it's more than just reservations. If I'm an Avis customer, I don't just care about parking reservations. Parking reservations is definitely part of the landscape, but I probably care about all parking. And so, if I just pull up into a lot one day and I didn't know anything about reservations, I still need to park. I still have my Avis car. I still need a path. And so being driven by these platforms, and just the Avis being an example, being driven by these platform partnerships and what they wanted and from us was to enable all parking, not just reservations. So we started tooling around with the idea of this last mile of mobility. And today, and April of 2019, last mile of mobility has become a very catchy term that everybody's using, much like other catchy terms that catch on in parking, like dynamic pricing and all these things that get real trendy, and people like to say them, but they don't necessarily mean them. We actually were talking about this last mile of mobility years ago and decided that we wanted to kind of expand. So we're kind of a long roundabout way. What I'm telling you is that the idea was that this last mile of mobility, no matter where a person is originating, no matter what kind of parking journey they're on, they need a solution, a digital solution, frictionless payment type of approach to be able to get in and out of parking garages and lots. And so we said, we want to be that last mile of mobility. We want to be that for consumers and for these platform partners. And so what name, first of all, if you're going to rename yourself to kind of align with this new vision and tell the world you're up to new, creative and important things, what is the one word that we could come up with that signifies the last mile of mobility? And then we gyrated, and I know Rich probably delved into some of this in his blog post, but we gyrated and we talked about hundreds of names, and we researched hundreds of names and who was using this and he was using that. And we had some other good ideas, but nothing just seemed to click. And then we arrived at this Arrive name, and it just kind of all fell into place. There were no other trademarks or other patent protections or anything against the name in our space, and it just made sense. And when you finally get someplace, no matter how you got there, you finally arrive, and it really signifies those last moments of a mobility journey of travel. And so that's how we got there strategically and kind of from a high level. And then certainly, as you noted, Rich did all the hard work of really bringing the idea to life.
The reasoning behind the naming is really sound, and it's a great name. Could you tell us how you conducted the market research to conclude that you wanted to rebrand, and what was the process like?
Yeah, so Rich really kind of led all of that. So he went out into the market, and we had some of our legal folks who were supporting him in terms of checking to see what trademark protections were out there and what we could do and what we couldn't do. But Rich largely, we sat in rooms and talked. We actually sent out surveys within the company we came down to like the last 10 or 12 ideas, and we asked people what they thought. We've got some internal company crowdsourcing of what people thought was cool and what was not. And and Rich did a great job of kind of leading that process, which also included when we got down to like the last, I don't know, 6 or 8 choices, he came up with, I don't know, maybe a half dozen or a dozen different examples of what color schemes might look like, and what this logo might look like, and what that logo might look like, with all of these different names. And so it really was a very thoughtful, intentional, well-designed process that we whittled down over time to arrive. So the team really did a good job.
So we've seen with other rebrands recently that the B2B and the B2C businesses have simply been merged under one name. However, you have chosen to keep them as separate entities with your 2 consumer-facing brands, ParkWiz and Best Parking. Can you tell me why this is and what advantages you think this may give?
Right now, today, we've kept the brands separate. ParkWiz and Best Parking are 2 very well-known brands. They've been out there for well over a decade, and and have different fulfill different needs for different folks in the market. Arrive gets announced, and we would love nothing more than for the public to immediately associate ParkWiz and Best Parking with Arrive, but we know that's going to take time. So we maintain the brands under kind of the parent company of Arrive, much like maybe this is a bad example, but much like Google is now under a parent company of Alphabet. I don't know if they have any aspirations to ever change that, but I think the point being is that today we are very cognizant of the fact that we need to maintain the ParkWiz Best Parking brand affinity as Arrive slowly catches on and becomes the norm. I would be lying if I said that we want to not. I'd be lying if I said we didn't want to get to a point in the next couple of years where maybe Arrive does become the primary brand, and the ParkWiz and Best Parking could slip into the background. But that'll really, be driven by market forces and adoption and how things go. I mean, definitely, we think that the consumers will continue to identify with ParkWiz and Best Parking because it's very, very costly and very, very difficult to get people to make that switch in their brain. But the Arrive network, as you noted, is really the first and foremost a play towards the B2B market. Other interesting reasons why maybe we held on to the ParkWiz and Best Parking name or would intend to hold on to those names for a while is that, for example, if a customer shows up with a parking pass to a particular garage or lot, many times the parking operators or the parking owners, they don't really understand. It's taken us a long time to get to a point where somebody shows up at a parking lot and a particular attendant is able to differentiate this is a ParkWiz pass. And so that's good, as opposed to if we suddenly have a pass that has Arrive written on it, those passes may get rejected. So as that will become less of a problem as the scan in, scan out, scanning and frictionless and beacon based and Bluetooth based technologies kind of eliminate that need for human intervention. But there's quite a bit of human intervention required now in markets like New York and San Francisco. So just some practical operational considerations there too.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. So what can we expect from Arrive in the near future?
So I think you're going to see in the immediate future, I think you're going to see a continued push into some really exciting, cool, dare I say, sexy partnerships with big companies that are embracing parking, they're embracing transportation, they're embracing the last mile mobility, and you're going to continue to see us announce new and cool partnerships. Most recently we announced again the Amazon in the fall. We announced Gas Buddy and launched that. We announced Avis recently. We've got some other really cool ones up our sleeve, and rolling those out and creating some really unique experiences for consumers and with some other big partners is kind of where we see things. And then I think the other thing you'll see is our continued push into the mobile payment space, meaning on-demand payments, not just reservations, but demand, powering cashless, frictionless payments for all customers everywhere, not just the reservation customers.
Thanks for taking the time to tell us more about Arrive. Don't forget, you can read the blog from Rich at parking-net.com. Thanks for listening in, and see you next time.